Okay, so we're in Dalam and Aleph. We just finished talking about how it is to get this fellow back into the area of the civilization. He was out of the Tchum, and they had this row of men that were created to get him back inside the Tchum. And we said that they relied on Rabbi Lazar, the last 2 Amos, get him in within 2 Amos. Then Yikones proved that he was following Rabbi Lazar's Kula. Okay, so all that is fine. We're up to Esvei. We're now going to attack this position that basically Rav Nachman told Rav Chizda that the way to get my dear student, Nechemia, braid Rav Chaneloi, back into the fold so he can have his cholent on Shabbos was by creating this makeshift human wall and getting him close. And once he's close enough, the last 2 Amos, you're allowed to fudge that. That's Rabbi Loz's position, that sort of you got a 2 Amma leeway. So Ezer of Nachman Yitzchak L'Rava. So this makeshift human walls doesn't seem to be so simple. Making that does not seem to run into some halachic complications. Ezer of Nachman Yitzchak L'Rava. Nafal Dufna. If a wall fell from a sukkah and now you're stuck, so what do you do? Lo yamid bo adam behema v'kelim. You cannot put a man, an animal, or a utensil in that place of the wall to sort of serve as a wall to allow you to use the sukkah. Nor should you stand up a bed that was more like one of these cots, whatever, that had the straps on the bottom to hold the mattress, and you stand it up, lifros l'saden, to put a sheet over it because the horizontal, vertical straps were not within 3 tvachim of each other, so you can't use lavud. So you should not erect that bed and throw a sheet over it. L'fishe'ein osin oel aroy b'tchil v'yontif. You cannot make a temporary ohel covering or structure l'chadchila on yontif. Can't do that. If you can't do it on Yontif, for sure you can't do it on Shabbos. So why is it that this was okay? Seems like there's a problematic issue of creating even temporary structures on Shabbos and Yontif, and this was Shabbos, and this human wall seemed to be a temporary structure. So let's see Rashi. No falduf. Right. So the first narrow line of Rashi's. Shall sukkah, a wall of a sukkah fell on sukkahs, obviously. So what should you do? What you shouldn't do is lo yaskiv es hamita. Okay, you shouldn't put a man, an animal, or a keli there. Nor should you stand up a bed sheishal b'sukkah keneged apirtz that you have in the sukkah. Standing it up, I guess people slept in the sukkah, so you got a bed readily there, and you put it opposite the pirtz, opposite the opening of your third wall. Even though it does not appear like you're erecting a structure, you're not building anything. By picking up the bed, all it looks like you're making room. Right, we're constantly doing that. Those people sleep in a sukkah, take the beds out, put the beds in, stand them up on the side, whatever. So it just looks like you're just doing housework, housekeeping. So the dom becomes kavel if some make a makom ravach sukkah. It looks like your intention is to just make more room for the sukkah. Afilachi aser. Nevertheless, it's aser. So if all these things are aser because you can't make these makeshift walls for the sake of your sukkah, how did Rav Nachman allow you to make this mechitz of people when clearly these types of constructions are not acceptable? The Bryce is answering them. So back to the Gemara. So Amalei, Rava, who was asked this question by Rav Nachman Yitzchak, the two of them were sitting, as you remember yesterday, side by side. Rava was closer to Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Yitzchak was behind Rava. To which he answered, Amalei, at amrit li miha, you bring me a valid point from this Brysa. However, I see you and I raise you. But I can answer you back that I've got another brisa that seems to say it's perfectly fine. So the best you're going to do is create a problem between two brises, but you're not going to sort of checkmate me into saying that Rav Nachman's approach was inappropriate. What do you do with this brise that seems to say it was totally appropriate? I'll answer you back from this one. You're allowed to make your friend into a wall in order for you to eat, drink, and sleep in a sukkah, which is obviously, those are the things that we should be doing in a sukkah, hanging out there as if it was our home. The V'yaskoif es hamita, and you're allowed to stand up the bed, v'yafrsol sadin, and throw a sheet over it, and create that wall, because again, if you have too many openings, then obviously love is not going to work. You don't have a mechitza. You need to have an enclosure. So if you want a wall, you got to throw a sheet over that bed with all those openings in the bed. And here we're saying you could do that. The very same situation that seemingly you couldn't do in the other brisa, here exactly you can do. Okay, the yifros al sadin, you're allowed to throw a sheet over it. Kadeshol tipo chamo alames. In the case, let's say you had somebody passed away there, and you don't want the sun to start hitting that dead person and creating all types of issues of decomposing and smelling and all types of lacking covered mace issues. While ochlin, nor do you want your kishka to be sitting in the sun, starting to develop a negative smell. You don't want that stuff. So you're allowed to throw a sheet over a bed in order to create a shade over the mace and over the food. So basically, you asked me for one brisa, I'm answering you from a different brisa. Okay, let's just do the Rashis here. In order, this is the brisa that says you could, in order for you to eat, drink, and sleep. Ikar mitzvah shel sukkah begimel dvar melalu. The main mitzvah of sukkah is these three things. That's the essence of sukkahs. So, and another thing you can do, alma shari. You see that all these makeshift types of walls are permissible. Uprachinan, and now we're going to ask kashadadi that these are problematic. Let's read those words back in the Gemara. Let's go back to the Gemara. So kashadadi. So that your attack on Rav Nachman just sort of got down. Yes, we lowered it, but at the same time we do have to reconcile a brisa with another brisa that seemed to be in a head-on collision. So kasha dadi, what do you do with this steer between these two brises? More answers al kasha. So we're going to reconcile it by saying it depends on whose opinion you're following. It's not a kasha. Har Bilazah, har Rabbanan. One is Rabbi Lazar, one is Rabbanan, and by injecting these two tanoim into these two brises, we can have a very clear reconciliation. Why? The Tan, this is a familiar Mishnah that we learned a while ago. Okay, we learned it in Shabbos actually twice. Okay, Kuf Chafei and Kuf Lamed Zayin. So hopefully remember way back to the good old days of Shabbos. The time we learned the Mishnah, Pekaka Chaloin, if you have a window shutter, okay, and that you want to use this window shutter on Shabbos and close up the window. You got, it's open, you want to close it up, it's getting cold, you want to block the sun, whatever you want to do. So can you use a window shutter on Shabbos to close up the window? So Rabbi Lazar says you need two conditions. It's got to be tied to the structure, to the house that you're building. Okay, that's not the one. Okay, which one is that? That's the bed. Okay, with the sheet. Okay, fine. And the. Okay, fine. Yeah. So you're Bizman shekoshev etoli. Yeah, when it's tied and hanging pokik, then you're allowed to use it, because when it's tied to the wall, right? So now you just take, and it's hanging, meaning that it's not even on the ground, where it looks like you're adding to a structure. It's just clearly already part of the structure, and you're just taking something that's already hanging and adding it to the structure. That's perfectly okay. But if you don't have those two conditions, it has to be tied and it has to be hanging, then v'imlav ain't paikin, but you cannot use it. Clearly, Rabbi Lazar's position is you cannot do things that look like you're adding to an existing structure on Shabbos. And filling in a hole in a window and closing up the window with a shutter, that is a problem. However, v'cham omrim, The Chachamim say benkach or benkach peikim, but it doesn't matter whether it's tied and on the floor or not. Either way, it's perfectly okay. So seems like by saying this is going to be the difference between one tan and another, whether or not these Owel Arois are a problem. The one who says you can't follows Rabbi Elazar. The one who says you could follows the Chachamim. So let's just one quick Rashi here. Right? If it's not hanging and it's not attached, then you cannot, because it's similar to binyan. Shemoisif al stima sabayis. You're adding on to the to the enclosure of the house. Yav pisha roihu. Even though it's certainly it's temporary. You're not nailing anything in. You're putting just stripping something into the window that comes in and out. Right? Vav pisha roihu shari yav. You can clearly go back and just pull it out. Right there, you see it. What number is that? 79. Okay. What? What is Perches? Oh, you found it in Perches? You went there to find it? Oh, okay, fine. So, yeah. So, therefore, what you call it? So, if the Rabbi Elazar clearly holds that a temporary makeshift wall is still inappropriate unless it already appears like it's part of the wall. Okay? So, you're missing the pictures. Hurry up. Okay, so...
my sister's daughter had a little baby boy.
Oh, mazel tov. Beautiful. Okay. So you have a perfect parallel between the yes brisa and no brisa, between Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim. So where it says, okay, sounds really good, right? So it sounds like a perfect kind of connection. The only trouble is
this the same Rabbi Elazar that it says you have kilamis to go back into the tchum?
Could be. I mean, I don't think we're connecting the two. Sometimes it's Rabbi Elazar, and here it's just you have the aleph. So it could be Elazar or Eliezer, and it could be different ones. So I don't think we're making that an issue right now, but it's possible that it's the same one.
If that were the case, we would be following him in one halacha, not following him in the other.
Which would
be okay.
Which would be okay.
All right.
Yeah. Very often we say that just because I follow a Tan in one area doesn't mean I follow him in the other. But it's possible that it's Elazar instead of Eliezer, but that would not be an issue. But let's see, we got a lot bigger issues to deal with. Gemara said, but wait a minute, this is not going to help you yet, because if you look further into the machlokas about the window and about whether or not you're allowed to put it back in, right, like the picture shows, does it have to be hanging and on and tied, or could even be on the ground, right? Like the Chachamim would allow you to take that shutter and pick it up and put it into the window. Rabbi Elazar would not allow you to take that shutter. That is not going to help you in this case. Why? Because back to the Gemara, because we learned about this brisa and this machlokas, where Rabbi Chana Amar Yechon, and Rabbi Chana said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Hakol Maidim Shein Oisen Ol Aroi B'Tchila B'Yontif. Everyone agrees. There is no opinion that even though it allows the window shutter to be put back, that will allow you to take an Ol Aroi, a temporary wall or a temporary structure, and put it l'chatchila into a place, even though it's going to be removed. That certainly will not be allowed. So, for example, if there was no string and you just took that shutter from the floor without a connection whatsoever, you want to put it into the window, everyone would say you cannot do that. Because if you can't do it on Yontif, for sure you can't do it on Shabbos. And everyone agrees you can't. It's what's machlokas. They only argue about increasing or adding something onto the structure of something that was already there. Meaning, Shablaza says even though you're really just adding because it's already sort of part, it's hanging there, but it's on the floor, so it's not really considered part of the structure already, and it's considered hosafa. Shablaza says you can't. Eliezer says you can't. So it is both. Now we have the yud, so it is Eliezer in both cases. So it's more and more looking like the same person. Vein tzorch loimar b'Shabbos. If you cannot add l'chatchila on right? You can't even add on Shabbos, on Yom Tov, and for sure you can't add on Shabbos. The Chomrim, on the other hand, take a lenient position, but not nearly as lenient as you want to take them. The Chomrim Mosifim b'Shabbos. Vein tzorach loy mebiyontiv. All the Chum allowed you to do is to be mosif on an oil aroy, to add to a structure by taking something that's around. Okay, and that's called hosafa, because now you're adding the window, the shutter to the window, but you're taking something that was already around. But if to take it fresh, like our case, remember the case of the guy outside the Tchum who got lost in his learning. You got those guys, and you made a brand new wall. You made this whole makeshift structure fresh from the get-go. There was no pre-existing structure that you're adding to. You're making something brand new. Okay, so that's the only thing that Chum say you can do. Okay, so how in the world are you mixing that into this? It's mixing apples with oranges. It doesn't compare. So this whole shutter thing.
Then why don't they bring that in our Mishnah, where the goy takes you out in the middle of no place, puts a barrier around you, and you're saying you can walk within it. That barrier wasn't there.
That's what we're asking. The usage of this brisa to explain the human barrier that was created for Nehemiah, poor Nehemiah who got stuck outside the tchum, is not a valid strategy. It's a non-halachically valid strategy. That's exactly what we're asking.
No, but we said it was valid before.
I know that's how we started today. That which you said is the way to do it. How could you do that when the brisa says you can't make a fresh wall on Yom Tov for Shabbos? You can't use makeshift mechitzas and make a human mechitza. And we started with a steer between one case of sukkah and another. We try to reconcile that by using this. So I mean, right now we don't. The question is, we have a steer between two brises that seems to say a human wall is good versus a human wall is not good, but it's certainly not universally accepted. And you attempt to try to make it a machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and the Chacham falls flat on its face, because the whole machlokas between Rabbi Elazar and the Chacham only applied to Moisif Oyel Aroy, but not to lechatchila make an Oyel Aroy. That you never have a right to do. So right now we're stuck. We don't know how to reconcile these two brises.
They're saying in the case of the goyim, you're not allowed to make the mechitza, but once it's made, you're allowed to use it. You're not allowed to make the mechitza, but once you make it, you're allowed to use it.
Here, the goy made the mechitza.
The goyim made the mechitza. You weren't involved in that, but you're allowed to use it, even though you yourself couldn't have done it.
Which case are you talking about? Am I missing the
In
case?
the Mishnah.
In the Mishnah.
Oh, the Mishnah. Oh.
Yeah.
You wind up in the middle of the field, the goy put a barrier around you.
Right, so the goyim did, now are you allowed to use it? But you didn't do it. You wouldn't have been able to put that barrier up.
So because the Jews now made the barrier, is that the problem? Is that
You can't make a barrier on Shah. Yeah, I mean the Jews are obviously wanting to keep
so
halacha.
the goy can, and
Well, the goyim are not. Again, I'm not sure. What case you're referring to, but
the Mishnah over there, the Mishnah that has led us to this point.
yeah.
The question is, once it's made, are you allowed to use it? That's in the Mishnah. Here, are you allowed to make this ohel hara?
It wasn't there. You were put in the middle, and then they built
Right. Okay. So there, you're not allowed to make it. Okay, you're not allowed to make that kind of mechitza, but your question is, are you allowed to use it? Here, the question is, are you allowed to make a human wall? I mean, that's the question here. Are you allowed to lechatchila make a human wall? Is a Jew allowed to make a human wall?
Well, I think the question is, can you make any wall?
Well, right now,
Okay.
I'm talking about human wall.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Which is the Mishnah on the Perek?
Yeah.
I missed that case. Which case was that?
I didn't see it. I'm so.
Okay. Whatever. Okay.
In art school, it takes
Fine.
3 days.
I hear. Okay. Yeah. I don't see that case. I don't.
Listen, maybe it's not here.
What?
Maybe it's not in the Mishnah.
Yeah.
But we did learn about it though.
Okay. Fine. Okay. But that's that's definitely what Ephraim is saying is correct. That whatever the guy did, that was what the guy did. This is about strategizing with Jews to make. That's what Rav Nachman said. Get a bunch of yeshiva bachrim and make a human wall. How can you do that when you're not allowed to make a wall on Yom Tov for Shabbos? So let's see Rashi. The lav. Where are we here? Rit Marla. Right. So back to Rashi for a second. How could you use that case as a explanation of what took place over here between these two brises, by the sukkah, right? We had the steer of the two brises by the sukkah of using an animal or using a man, using the bed. One said yes, one said no. I've written my Lord, okay, the window shutter is an addition. It's not an addition. You've already got a wall. You're just adding a pakak onto that. That's not really making something new. But the Bryce is saying making a wall lechatchila, a brand new wall that doesn't exist right now. You've got a window. You're just closing it up. That's you can't compare that kind of a situation. Sounds like even if it's not hanging per se. I said before it was hanging. Even if it's not hanging, it seems like you already have the wall. And all you have is a window. You have a small window in that wall. Now you want to cover it up and strip it in. That's called being moisif. That's not called making a brand new wall l'chatchila. So you're mixing apples with oranges. So we are still stuck. How do you explain those two brises? And also, how do you feel so comfortable relying on one brisa over the other when it comes to the makeshift wall of humanity that allowed the Chemi to get back into a civilization? Okay, Ella. So back to the Gemara. Elo kasha shira. Let's take the pakak and the shutter and forget that. Okay, let's sort of. I know it's going to be hard, but let's just put that in the back burners and let's wait till we get back to it another time later on in the Masechta.
Once we have this kasha about Mosif, so that second brisa doesn't help us at all, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, even if you hold like that is only talking about Mosif. So
exactly.
In our case, we have nobody who's finding that. Okay.
Correct. Exactly. So, Rabbi, that's exactly the point. That the machlokes is not going to help you because that machlokes is limited to a case of Hosafa, and here we're talking about making a fresh makeshift wall. Absolutely. Ella. So I need to find a new angle because the angle of Oel Aroy or Oel is not going to work. That idea of a makeshift wall is not going to help me. So we have to find a different angle to explain the machlokes by Sukkot. So what's that going to be? Elokasha hakrav meya hakrav Yehuda. So the answer is going to be that we have machlokes about human or animal walls, the animal walls which we already have existing between Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda. What do I mean? The Tanya, because it says in the Brisa, you're allowed to make an animal as a sukkah for a wall. So if you want to bring Dumbo and make that be your third wall, that definitely would be, I've seen many, interesting concoctions for sukkahs in Los Angeles. That would be an interesting one. You rent an elephant for a week. Okay, and can you use an elephant for a sukkah? Definitely attract a crowd, that's for sure. I'm not sure how the smell would work out with the food. I don't know, but that might be a shiloh making brachas, but whatever. So can you use can you use a behema for a wall? The answer is yes. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Meir Posel. Rav Meir Posel, Rav Yehuda Maksha. So if a man made, let's start again. If a man made an animal as a wall for a sukkah, Rav Meir Posel, Rav Meir says thumbs down, Rav Yehuda Maksha. Rav Yehuda says thumbs up. So that could be the segue. The machlokes about whether or not you're allowed to make the animal, the wall is machlokes about whether or not a movable wall is valid. Is valid. So he says, the Gemara says, slow down. He says, Hassam, one second. Rav Meir, the apostle Hassam, continuing the Gemara of Meir, who says it's apostle Al Malav Mechitzi, will say it's on a Mechitza. So this is going to run counterintuitive, meaning like this: the Rav Meir who says that an animal cannot be a wall. So then go ahead, put up on Yontif. You're not accomplishing anything anyway. We want to move the animal and make it. It's nice for shade, but it will not supply wall because it's possible to. You're not allowed to make an animal as a wall. It's a movable entity, and therefore it doesn't have a permanence to it that's necessary. And therefore, since you're not making a valid wall, go ahead and do it because it's irrelevant. So you're allowed to do irrelevant things on Yontif or Shabbos because you're not making anything significant. Hacha, Hashari, right? The one who says, Rav Meir who says it's possible will say it's Amalav Mechitzihi, Hacha Shari, Delav Midi Kovid. So here it's mutter because you didn't do anything. Rabbi Yehuda to come Machshira, some Rabbi Yehuda who's going to say it is a valid wall to bring Dumbo in as a third wall. Alma Mechitzi. Well, if it's mutter, then you're making a mechitza. If you're making a mechitza, you better not do it on Shabbos and Yontiv, because that's something significant. You're making a sukkah into a valid sukkah. Hachaser. So we are trying. It's going to fall flat on its face, this attempted answer. Okay, and for many reasons, and some of it which probably we already feel that. First of all, so bottom line is, what are we trying to say? That the issue has nothing to do with making a Ol Aroy. Okay, because you cannot make an Ol Aroy. This is really not going to help us for the Nehemiah's situation. But in terms of understanding those two brises, it's about making a wall in a sukkah. Is an animal a valid wall or is an animal not? If it's a valid wall, you cannot do it, and if it's not a valid wall, you can do it, because since it's not valid, you're not accomplishing anything. Okay, to which Gemara says, Tizra, do you think that's going to help us in this brisa to use Dumbo as the explanation to explain the smachlokus between these two brises, this contradiction? Aim the shamas later of Meir Behema. Because Rav Meir only said it by a behema. The only issue is Dumbo, who is going to come and go as he pleases, right? As much as you might have trained him for Barnum and Bailey Circus, it's not really going to work. As we know, when the elephant has its own mind, it will move as it wants to, when it wants to. But there's no.
That's the whole point of the sukkah. It's a temporary structure.
Well, you don't want it that temporary. You want it to last the whole thing. You don't want it to fall apart the minute you bring in the cholent and he gets all excited and moves away. There goes your wall and there goes your cholent eating. So you want something a little bit more solid than the whims of an animal. Okay, but other than that only help you for the animal case. There are three other cases. The Bryce said Adam, Behema, and Kalim. So it only is going to help you for the Behema. What are you going to do for the Adam and Kalim? Visu, okay, and furthermore, Rav Meir Ali B'Daman. Okay, who are you going to try to... Rav Meir, who says that it's okay because it's not a valid... Right? Rav Meir is the one who said it's not a valid wall, and therefore it's not a valid wall, it's okay to do it. Who is he going like? Yeah, leave it Rav Elazar. If it's according to Rav Elazar, Lahosif Nami Yosef. He even says Lahosif, you're not allowed to. So how are you bringing... Dumbo into the sukkah when you're clearly adding to an existing structure? Okay, Ela leave Rabbanan. And so you have to, so you can't hold like Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar will for sure say thumbs down to this. But therefore the only way you can allow it would be to follow the Chachamim, the Rabbanan. Well, it's still not going to help you. Aim Dam Rabbanan Lahosif. Even Rabbanan are not going to help you in allowing Dumbo to become your shade in the sukkah, because leaving out the issue of saying the sukkah is okay, but just even bringing him in to create that makeshift wall, it's still not going to be permissible according to Chachamim, because the Chachamim only say lahosif is okay. Had they ever said that l'chatchila can bring Dumbo in fresh off the street and have him become your wall?
Actually, if your sukkah is possible, when the animal gets up and leaves, or the person or the utensil, whatever it is, gets up and leaves, now your sukkah is possible. When you put it back, you really can't. In other words, you have to put the schacham last to make the sukkah. So you've got an unkosher sukkah, and now you're adding a wall to it to make it a kosher sukkah. It's really not a kosher sukkah at that point, because the walls are put on first.
It's a good kash. Okay, you're okay, but you're asking Tasavlom and also.
Yeah.
You're asking that the sukkah, but it really was made properly. Now it just okay. It's a valid point, but when we get to sukkah, we'll deal with it. Okay, well, that's not our issue right now.
No, but no matter what you're going to do, you're not going to have a valid sukkah.
Okay, but some things are okay to do, even though it might appear to be Tasavlom and also. But when you put up this schach, it was valid, so that
You had a valid sukkah,
right,
because the animal was there, and then the animal left.
yeah. But it doesn't seem like you have to raise the schach again, and But you're making a good point, but it doesn't seem like that's a problem. That
They seem to be ignoring it.
Well, yeah, because it could very well be that you don't have to do what you're saying, because the schach was valid at the time that you made the sukkah. The wall doesn't pass that schach. Okay. So let's do Rashi. So he says, so we want to use Rav Meir and Rabbanan, to which Gemara comes back. Now Rashi is Eimer, right? That's what we're up to? Is that what we're up to? No, Rav Meir Posel, actually higher up. Rav Meir Posel, Mefarish Pesach Sukkah, Shema Tivrach. Right? So the Rav Meir passes because it might run away. You can't rely on Dumbo staying there like some kind of dumb elephant, because he might not be so dumb. And he might decide to run away, in which case you're stuck. So making a sukkah in such a makeshift fashion is not acceptable, according to Meir. According to Yehuda, it is acceptable. So Rav Meir posel, so the lav mini covered. So he says, so the one who says that it's possible will say, go ahead and do the wall, because you're not doing anything. Make that wall. The lav mini covered, the kivin the lo misakin l'sukkah, even though since you're not effectuating any positive result in the sukkah, avagav the ovid oel, even though you are making a wall. I mean, it's a wall, just not a wall that's going to help you with the sukkah. Shari, you can bring Dumbo there. The kasavar osin all right. You're allowed to make a temporary wall on Yontif. The lav misak ein sukkah ein oel aroy v'shari. And since it's not really making the sukkah valid, it's not doing anything for the sukkah because Dumbo is not a valid wall for a sukkah. Go ahead and do it. You bring a temporary situation in here, and it's mutter. V'kati tuva ikal mifrach halad. And there's a lot to ask on this attempted answer. This attempted answer, Rashi saying, is fraught with issues. The kadesh yochal v'yishtav yoshikatani. Because first of all, what do you mean you can't use a sukkah? The second Bryce we brought, Beferish says you're making this wall so you can eat, sleep, and drink in the sukkah. So don't tell me that you're allowed to do it because you're not effectuating. The whole Bryce was talking about effectuating an allowance in the sukkah to be able to eat, drink, and sleep. So what are you saying? Clearly the Bryce was talking about using the sukkah for halachic purposes. Even though there is ample reason to smash this answer to smithereens. Anyway, we're going to knock this answer out for many other reasons. Time until anyway we basically remove it from its legitimacy. So we're going to do it anyways, even though we have one kasha, we had other kasha, so it doesn't really matter. Bottom line is we're knocking it out. And now we're on the attack mode. So Gemara says, you can't bring me Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda to explain the machlokas between these two walls, these two brises about the makeshift wall. Why? Because Eamon the Shamalei Rav Meir the Apostle Behema B'Shem Shem Tivrach. The whole reason why Dumbo doesn't work is Dumbo might run away. Adam Sheishel Badas, but a person who has das, at least most of them, I'm not sure what the liberals, but okay. Adam Sheish Badas, Lamada Okelim Shein Zozin Koman, right? A man who has das to stand where in its place, right? Stand there. Yankel, stay right there. I need you to for an hour and a half. We're having a meal, and you're my wall, so just don't move. Okay, well, Yankel hopefully won't move. At least, if he says he's not going to move, you trust him. A Keli for sure. A bed's not going to move. A bed has no das. Bed is inanimate, so it's not going to be a problem. Shein Zozim Koman, it does not move from its place. Mishamele, is there any discussion there that whether that's a good wall or not? They don't discuss that. So if you want to segue an issue to Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, it's got to be across the board the same issue. And Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda never discussed an Adam; they discussed a behema. V'hai Tana Adam v'Kelim hu Tani. Okay, and this Tana on both ends of the Bryce, both Bryces discussed a man and Kalim as well. Osis Chaver Dolphin Viskov Zamita. It discussed his friend and it's discussed the bed. So this issue is not going to help you with this Bryce because it doesn't cover all the bases. Visu, and furthermore, even on a more lumdisha level, Nihidol Masakin Le Sukkah. Granted, you're not effectuating the sukkah, but you are Lamaisa doing it for whatever reason. I don't know. You want to have shade there. You want to be able to do whatever you want to do there with somebody blocking. Maybe you want to do something private. You don't want people you're watching as you change your clothing. So, but whatever it is, you're making a makeshift wall. Rav Meir, the Mukmis Lahod Shari Alibay, Rav Meir, who you want to use Rav Meir to say it's mutter to make that makeshift wall, Ushindolav Misakin Mechitza, the old the lav heksha mechitza, and you want to use the logic that it's not really doing anything because it's not a valid wall. So you're not fixing up the sukkah. If you're not fixing up the sukkah, go ahead and do it. Well, that's not enough. That's not a good enough explanation. Aliba demand the shari of Meir lo komar. Aliba demand the shari of Meir. Okay, according to the one who says that it's mutter to do, right? Because you're not effectuating anything. Lo komar Rabbi Rabbe. He's not following the Rabbi Lezer, his Rebbe. V'lo krabana. He's not following Rabbanan either. In other words, there'll be nobody that we know of on record that would say that such a thing is mutter to do on Shabbos to make a wall Why? The pekach achlon ain't bo mitzvah sukkah, because the pekach achlon there's no mitzvah. There's not a question of rectifying the wall in a way that you're making it into something significant. There's not a sukkah case there. And even there, the only allowance by the window shutter case is only to add to the pre-existing structure, but not to make a new structure. So there is nobody who's going to say that something like that is permissible to do using any of the the Tanoim who go on record about that issue. So I don't, B'chlal, this answer falls apart on many different levels. So we need to go back to the drawing board and again try to figure out how in the world can we reconcile the steer in those brises, and of course the ultimate goal is to the additional goal is to explain how did we make that makeshift human wall around Nehemiah to allow him to come back into society. Gemara says, okay, so back to the Gemara. Ella Havha, 3 lines from the bottom. Okay, Ella Havha Rabbanan. So let's go back to the drawing board. Both brises represent the Rabbanan. The Kelim HaKem Lo Kasha. And when it comes to the issue of one brise is saying you cannot make the wall, the other brise saying you can make the wall, it's not a problem. Habedayfen Shlishis, Habedayfen Revius. Is it your third wall or is it your fourth wall? That's the issue. To make your third wall where you're rectifying something and you're making something significant, you cannot do. But to make it your fourth wall, okay, to just give you more privacy, that's not a problem. Okay, I'll even prove to you that that's the indicator, that that's the reconciliation of those two brises. It says its wall fell. On the brise that says you cannot do it, its wall sound like its integral wall. What are the 3 critical walls that make up a sukkah? So in that situation, the answer will be thumbs down, you cannot. The other brise that says you can't make the wall will be thumbs up because what are you doing? Shema Minah. Okay, so on the Kalim part, on the bed versus bed part, we got no problem. The answer is going to be third wall or fourth wall. Let's see Rashi. Elohava harabanan, but 6 lines up from the wide lines. Elohava harabanan v'aritani nafal doifna liamid ba. The Bryce that says that if the wall falls, its wall falls, you cannot stand it up. Is bedoifin shlishis. The bishtei defanos enkori oel. 2 walls are not called an oel. It's not called anything because it's just an L-shaped corner of 2 walls will render you nothing. What is it going to do for you? And when you make that third wall, you're making something significant. You're making an oel, meaning I am now officially surrounded by a valid sukkah. And this would clearly fall under the category of making an oel aroi, which we said you cannot do according to everybody. You cannot make a new temporary dwelling on Shabbos Yontif. V'adatani mutter, and that which we said is okay, but don't from revius. That's referring to the fourth wall. The belav hachi have the oel, okay, because without it, it's still in ohel. V'aitosefes be'almuhu, and this is what you call just adding, right? By making this wall. Making the wall interesting because before we wanted to say the animal, everyone says you couldn't do because you're still that's you call making an oel new, even though you're not really fixing the sukkah. But I guess you bring it in fresh. Okay, interesting how earlier maybe we said this would have been a problem, but now it's saying that adding a fourth wall is not a problem. I'm not sure how a fourth wall is different than a non-halachic third wall that won't be. I understand. So there wasn't a sukkah already, and all you do is you're adding an animal that's not going to be a valid sukkah, and yet the Gemara still.
There was no problem with it.
No, the Gemara says the Gemara attacked it by saying there's no opinion you can follow because by bringing Dumbo into the sukkah or by putting up a thing, even though you're not validating the sukkah, it's still called adding an olaroi. Here, by making a fourth wall, let's finish the Rashi. V'hayto sefes ba'almu. This is called stam in addition. So you can use Rabbanon to say you're allowed to be Mosif and Oel Aroi on Shabbos because you already have a valid sukkah. Okay, I guess when you have an invalid sukkah and you're bringing a wall in to give you shade, I guess you're making a brand new wall. Here you already have everything you need. Just you're enhancing it somehow. That's not called adding anything. Okay, not sure, but definitely seems a little Interesting. Okay.
We're going on these first two brises, the original two brises, right?
Right.
One is Nafal Dofna, and the other one's Ose Adam is Chaver Dofen.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say Ose Adam is Chaver Dofen, Kadesh Yochal v'Yishta v'Yishan, are we not talking about a sukkah there?
We are.
We are. So then, what do you mean Kadesh Yochal v'Yishta v'Yishan? It sounds like without that wall you couldn't do it, which doesn't sound like it's a fourth wall.
Okay.
We're going to get to that, right?
Let's say, I think so, yes. So they can nami, and I'll prove to you that we're talking about where you cannot do it is where you are making the third wall. The hadik tani aser b'dofen shishus koy, that the case which you said it's aser is by a third wall. Wadik tani neifel dofna, where we say in the language of the Brisa, its wall fell. The mashra dofen shini teresba. Okay, it sounds like it's a dofen which matters it. Revius lahave tikun sukkah, and Revius, the fourth wall doesn't do anything for the sukkah, the tan, v'she'ein lo shalosh tefanas psula. Right, because the Mishnah in Sukkah, the famous Mishnah in Sukkah, which actually we already did in Amid Yomi, Baruch Hashem, the Mishnah says that if it does not have three walls, it is puzzle. Sounds like three walls will make it kosher, and the fourth wall is pure icing. It's overkill. It's icing on the cake. So since it's the icing on the cake, that's why you're allowed to do it, and it's perfectly okay. But here it's not. Okay, so that's a proof. Okay. So when it comes to Akeli, we're saying it's not a problem because it depends whether it's the third wall or the fourth wall. Adam kasha. What do you do? Yeah. So not sure. Maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure we're going to get to it. Let's see. Adam kasha, but you haven't resolved the stira between. One case of man is okay, the other case of man is not okay by the sukkah. So how have you resolved that? Okay, because one case was when the men went there intentionally and knowingly, that's not acceptable because you knowingly are making a wall. But when you're going there without das,